What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin back with another book review. Today I'm reviewing the final book in David Eddings' The Belgariad, which is book 5, Enchanter's Endgame, which came out in 1984. This is a first edition, actually. So it's published by Del Rey Book Fantasy. Well, Del Rey Fantasy, which is they're still around. They're still around, right? And this book is around 372 pages. God damn it. 372 pages, right? So yeah, this book takes place right after the last one, where Belgariad, the sorcerer, his great great several times removed grandson, Garion, with the sword of the Riven King and Silk, are on their way to Mishrak to fight the evil god Torak, right? Before he wakes up. While all that's going on, the Alorn kings and Princess Sinedra are trying to sneak their army and a fleet of boats through the Angarax, so the king of Sherak, King Anhag and Barak could lead a fleet to raid and destroy troop ships of the Emperor of Meloria, which is Zakarf, right? While that's going on, while they were attacking a port city, right, which they need to take over before they could, launch the fleet, they get attacked by both the king of Murgo's army, right, and the emperor's army, Sarkov, which we were led to believe by the king of Nadrak, who we meet in this book, right? Both hate each other and are using the Alorn invasion as an excuse to mobilize their armies against each other, right? Right. So, like, the first half of I would say the first one third of the book is Garion, Belgarath, and Silk trying to sneak into Meloria, right? While they're trying to avoid Malarian recruiters who are rounding up and catching Angarax from any land outside of Meloria, right? So that was fun, and they had to go through this haunted land filled with devil worshippers, where they had to masquerade as like a quester and his wizard, where there was a cool like Pokemon style actually it was more MS Shin Megami Tensei style monster battle, where Belgarath had to summon a devil monster, right, to fight another sorcerer who also summoned a devil monster, right? And there was some funny scenes where, like, because like you have like these guys called dreamers in this land, where they describe the monsters, the devils, right? And they're like, the way they describe them, it's like something out of Warhammer 40K, right? Where the monsters are like, several, have several limbs, all clawed, and they have like long teeth and 3 eyes and like wicked scythe-like tails, right? It's like crazy, the descriptions, right? And it turns out that those descriptions are illusions, and they're actually more like the conventional like the devil, where it's a guy with horns and hoofs, right? Which when they break out of when the summoner sorcerer fucks up, right? His control over the devil like resumes its normal form and goes to chase and kill the wizard and his the wizard and his entourage, which that's cool. That's what the preview is in this book, is that battle, right? Because obviously they're not going to preview the here's the preview, the duel of magic, right? Too stunned even to be afraid, Garion watched as the devil and Grinja and the devil Horja close on each other, clawing and tearing out chunks of scaly flesh with their awful jaws. The earth shook beneath their feet as they fought, but their full burning hatred was directed at the two humans who had invoked them and now drove them to destroy each other. This was magic, not sorcery. Garion shuddered, remembering that his grandfather had admitted that he was not proficient at magic. Belgariad was sweating, droplets of perspiration trickled down his face. The incantations which controlled the devil and Grinja rippled endlessly from his tongue. The slightest faltering of either the words or the image that he held in his mind would break his power over the beast he had summoned. Then the devil and Grinja would turn upon him and destroy him. That was more... They made you think with that, preview that, that battle was going to be super scary. It was. It was more funny than scary. I mean, it was tense. It was a good fight, right? Which there was a really cool battle in the at the middle of the book, right? Which most of the book is honestly Princess Sinedra, right? And the Aelorn army, right? And then it's not until the last 90 pages of the book, or sorry, last 72 pages of the book, where it goes back to Garion, right, and Belgariad and Silk, where they finally get to Chitrol Mishrock and have to avoid well, actually, it was the last 92 pages. Sorry, not 72. It was, it was at the 300 mark where the climax actually happened, right? Where they sneak into Chitrol Mishrock, and you had an encounter with against Belgariad and Zeldar the Apostate, right? Which you find out that he didn't really betray Aldar. It was more the thing where which Aldor is the god that Belgariad and the other sorcerers, call their master, right? Because Aldor was the one who taught them magic, or sorcery. Sorry, magic and sorcery is two different things. I forgot in this universe, because sorcery in this universe is more like Jedi stuff, right? Or willing stuff to happen, where traditional magic is controlling spirits or controlling devils, shit like that, right? So you find out that Zeldar actually was trying to sneakily get the orb of Aldar back from Torak, only for him to get pretty much mind controlled by Torak, because Torak can basically, if a god wills you to do something, you have to do it, right? So Torak willed Zeldar to betray his friends, right? Which he had no choice to do it. But they know that he had no choice to do it, but they still hate him, which makes no sense, right? I mean, he screwed up, yes, but what the hell? I think that was a little... How they treated Zeldar or Belzadar was a bit unfairly, in my opinion, right? And then you have the final fight in the book where against Garion and Torak, where I'm not going to spoil it, but it turns into the climax of Ultraman Orb. So you would have to watch my Ultraman Orb review to get that. But so it's a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie, right? And I like the stuff that was going on before that, because while he was getting close to Chitrol Mishrock, Torak was getting in his head, trying to demoralize him. So that was cool, right? So I'm just going to go into my likes and dislikes of the book. We actually got to see some cool battles, right? Like I said, the Shin Megami Tensei style devil monster battle was cool, right? I liked the comedy scenes in this book. The comedy scenes were good, right? The comedy scenes were good. It almost like made me wish that the other books, which were super short, were more the length of this book. This was the longest book out of all four of them. Right. So now I'm going to go to my dislikes. So like Nadra almost got one of her friends killed, and didn't learn her lesson at all. And then during the battle of the one port town, I forget what it's called. I think it was Fall Mardol, right? One of the peasants from Aaron, one of the peasants, I forget who, but somebody died. Somebody insequential died, right? One of the very minor characters. I think it was one of the peasants. I could be wrong though. Died. It was a minor character, but it wasn't. It was somebody that Gary knew, right? Died, and then she orders her bodyguard to go out and kill as many of the enemy as he could, right? Only to get killed, right? So yeah, that was, that was kind of an asshole move to do, right? Right, which there was a scene where he confessed to trying to assassinate Belgariad, right? Because he was the son of the Bran the Warder, who was, for people who know the books, that in the absence of the Riven King, right? Rivia is ruled by Bran the Warder, which was named after the first what's this called, Castellan? Because that's kind of like what they do, right? The first Castellan of like Rivia, right? So they're kind of chosen from the people, right? So yeah, that sucked. Only minor characters died in this book. The only major character that did die in the book, which you see here, I love how they covered him up so you wouldn't know who it was, right? But it was pretty obvious. Once you got to the end of the book, it was pretty obvious who was going to die. So yeah, that was like, oh, they had the thing where like they brought him back because they did like, establish that you could bring people back or living things back to life, right? It's just really hard to do. Only for the price that they paid to bring him back to be like undone or whatever, because I'm not going to spoil it, but it was like, okay, so that was dumb. I fought the fight between Belsadar and Belgariad. Sorry, not Belgariad. Belgroth was a bit anticlimactic because he was literally so enraged by the person that Belsadar killed, which he only did in self-defense, that he was just pound like hammer blows, right? He was just hammer blowing like Zeldar, right? So, right. So there was some magic used during the fight, right? But it was kind of lame compared to the magic fight that happened. And which book was it? Magician's Gambit. That was a much cooler battle between sorcerers in that book, right? And then there's also the thing where the climax, the last like 50 pages of the book is just like two weddings, right? So it's like, wow, maybe they ended the climax of the book really quickly, only to end the book with two weddings, right? And then they also did the thing that, there's actually more to come, right? Which we know, well, if you didn't know, now you know that the series, technically the end of the Belgariad is this book, but there were two other series called the Malorian and the Elenium, right? Which people say that those series were not as good as the Belgariad, right? So yeah, they did some sequel baiting at the end of the book, right? Which I did pick up the first book of the Malorian. I'm going to wait until I get the other books first before I start reviewing that series, right? Overall, I liked this book. It was a good climax, but yeah, a bit too much of the book was like basically people. I think in the series overall, there was too much traveling from place to place. Honestly, right? Which I like that kind of parts, that kind of stuff in books, but in fantasy books, the questing. But it was a bit like like okay, like would have been nice if there was more battles, more against fantasy creatures, because like they encountered like special monsters at the end of the book, but that Torak made to guard Chitral Mishrak, and they couldn't fight them because they were too worried to use sorcery in the presence of Torak. Right? They were too close to Torak, only for Belgraph to be like fuck it and to use sorcery in front of his like tomb or whatever. So that didn't make sense, right? And there was some Deus Ex Machina stuff in the book, right? Which again, the whole premise of the series is that there's like two prophecies, and one's destined to happen over the other. So a lot of the stuff in these books are predestined, right? But overall I like this book. There was some problems, but overall I enjoyed this book, and I would recommend this series to people who want to get into reading fantasy books. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. So I'm going to take a break from reading fantasy books, right? To work on my graphic novel, my graphic novel book log. But like our next comic book review is also going to be fantasy. It's going to be the first volume of the Complete Elf Quest. Right, this is the Omnibus by Wendy Pini and Richard. Is it Piney or Pini? I don't know. Right, which you can go on her website to read this stuff for free. But this was only 30 something bucks, so I'm like, oh, it's 30 something bucks. I'll buy this, right? Yeah, so look forward to that. And I did today pick up a new game, the deluxe edition of the Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure, which was only 70 bucks. I was surprised at that. Yeah. So yeah, I'll open this up. Here's the back. Alright. I bought the warranty, and I think I threw out the receipt. So I'm gonna look. Hopefully, this thing is not damaged, but it never is. So if somebody wants the code to the soundtrack, here it is. I'll pause it for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, if you want this, there it is. Alright. Comes with a warranty, and it comes with this booklet, right? Yeah, it's pretty much the same artwork, kinda, as the other one. It's a little different, but the chibi characters are the same. They have like new outfits, which I would have preferred the other gang leader to join our party, but the leader of the Saber Vipers over the Testaments guy, but whatever. So here you see some artwork, I wonder if we're gonna have some cameos from the that's the one chick, from the other, yeah. Those are the characters from Trails in the Sky. Yeah, so that's it for this review.